I'm Callie Seckler.
And I'm Tara Merrick.
This is Worth the Watch. This week's show is Wednesday.
We'll be rating the plot, character, sound, visuals, and originality of the show. Each category earns a popcorn bucket.
Or not. First up is plot. So the plot is something that we talked a lot about. I didn't necessarily not enjoy it. Overall, I just feel like there was way too much going on at one time. It became almost messy. You could take out certain pieces of it individually and focus solely on those characters, or just trying to figure out the overall mystery with Wednesday. But as a whole, I didn't feel like the ideas were portrayed very well. I trust Tim Burton to give me a good movie or a good TV show. I love Tim Burton. I just feel like maybe he had way too many ideas going on and they almost didn't mash together very well, or there was just simply too much going on to get yourself to mash through.
Yeah, there was definitely way too much going on. From the Pilgrim plot, which felt like
not necessarily out of nowhere, but it was almost like they needed a bad guy to talk about the entire show.
Yeah.
And so they introduced this Pilgrim character who didn't like the weird people and wanted them all to die, which ended up being part of the end story. It just could have been portrayed so much better. I know that Laurel Gates was a normie and she really couldn't do anything, so she had to summon someone from the past to be able to do that, but I just feel like it could have been so much more compelling if she herself was the person doing something wrong, or like really causing, it would have been more to her character.
If she and her hive, if she and Tyler had been the ones to confront Wednesday, I think that would have been a lot more compelling, like
Absolutely.
you said. And then also, along with the Pilgrim plot, the love triangle between Wednesday, Xavier, and Tyler was, it wasn't the greatest choice.
It was almost annoying because as you're trying to figure out what the mystery is going on, and obviously these two are going to be the main people that we're looking at thinking, oh, it could be this person, oh, it could be this person. It's at the end when they ended up arresting Xavier because of that, it almost just like, it took away from everything that they were building up to the whole show, even especially with the love triangle, and that she ended up kissing him anyway, but then they just wanted a cool moment for Tyler to look at her and say, how does it feel to lose? Even though it added nothing to the plot for his character to just suddenly switch like that. I don't know, it just felt weird.
It doesn't make sense as to why he was manipulating Wednesday. Unless they were trying to build for something in season 2. And then the love triangle itself, the only reason I could recognize it as a love triangle in the first 4 episodes or so was because I saw that the main character was a girl and that there were 2 significant boys that they kept going back to and talking about their relationship. But in reality, there was not very much chemistry.
Yeah. I honestly thought Xavier was a much more, I guess compelling is the word, a much more interesting character to talk about. And they almost should have gone more into that. I feel like a lot of the attention they put on someone like Bianca or any of the other side characters' plots could have been used to more form Xavier's plot, and that would have been better in the outcome of him getting arrested. We would have cared more, and it felt very
It ties back to them having way too much to do. Each of these characters could have had their own their own spin-off TV show because they each had their own backstories that were just so that you wanted to know more about. But this is only like an 8-episode series.
Yeah.
And they can't delve into each of these characters.
Which goes to our next point of the last episode was kind of a real letdown for me specifically. The last 20 minutes felt like they were solely setting up for a next season, which is something Netflix has, at least I have noticed, I feel like has fallen into with so many other things, with movies and TV shows. It's almost like you're not putting enough care into this work of art, this movie that I'm spending my time watching, this TV show that I'm spending days of my life watching, and all they're doing is using it as a way to make a second season, to make a second movie, to keep viewers watching. I want to finish watching what I'm watching now. I want to be interested and be into it now, which is why somebody who watches them all at once and then you're just waiting for more, that might work and you're not noticing that they're just setting up for another season. But somebody who's really watching the show to watch the show, or because they love the Addams Family and just want to see what someone as creative as Tim Burton can do with a TV show and an amazing actress like Jenna Ortega. And I felt like it was almost just ruined by having messy plot and just using it to set up for a second season. I'll watch a second season, because it's Tim Burton and it's pretty, not because it was set up in the first season.
The first season was reduced just down to a stepping stone for the second season, so Netflix can make all the money, get all the viewership from the second season. So we're not going to be giving it the bucket for plot. It was very disappointing in that aspect. As for characters, like we said, each one of them had a lot going on, which I thought it gave them motivations and they weren't just coming out of nowhere. They weren't 2D.
I didn't feel like any character was randomly placed or then there for nothing. Someone like Enid, I absolutely loved her character throughout the whole thing. I know it was very predictable that she was going to not be a werewolf the whole show, and then at the very end, when she needs to be, she's going to be able to turn into a werewolf. But her character in her own had motivations for doing things, had her own things that she was interested in that weren't just solving Wednesday's mystery, but were also not just the complete opposite of Wednesday. They are parallels in their own way, but it was meshed together and that you could actually look at these characters and say that they are friends and they have reasons for being friends, which when their fight happens, it wasn't something stupid that you're watching thinking, wow, it's just two teenage girls fighting. No, it was characters with real motivations that were upset about things and were actually thought out, and I thought they did a good job.
And the details specifically in Wednesday and Enid's relationship, their friendship, was very, very well done. Everything from Enid being very outgoing, how they were opposites. They had the dichotomy, which is shown great in the visuals in terms of the windows with all the colors on one side and the black, the dark on Wednesday's side. But it was also shown in how these characters acted and who they were and how they interacted. Specifically, I'm thinking of those two scenes in which Enid and Wednesday were kind of Enid sort of saying how they cared about each other, but not straight to each other's face. I believe Enid was talking about a missing thing, when really she meant that she was missing Wednesday, and that sort of thing. It really reflects how these characters feel about each other and how they care about each other, but they just can't express that in the sort of standard normal way that you might think about. And it made for very, very compelling.
And it lines up with the whole school being the school of weirdos and the people outside of it being normies. The characters were very thought out and rightly placed in their setting.
Yeah, so we're definitely giving it the bucket for characters.
As for sound, that was something that I loved immediately. The intro to the show, when it started playing, I was hardly even watching the cool graphics that were made. I was just so drawn in by the score and the sounds that they made. It was just, I loved it absolutely. As throughout the show, I felt like the music was always placed at the right time. We can talk about the dance scene and how just the music in that perfectly illustrates how they are the weirder school. It wasn't normal pop music, it was more fun music that she dances to and that everyone's dancing to, which is why we hate that Lady Gaga is now used on TikTok, because they had such a beautiful piece of art that they used in the show and then it was reduced to something else. But anyway, just her cello music that she plays ties in so well. I love that she played Painted Black. I absolutely love that song and it sounded so cool on the cello. Just throughout the whole show, I felt like they were placed at the right time. Sound cues, I love Thing walking on the car at the end. I actually didn't pick it up, my mom actually picked it up. We were watching and then all of a sudden the little tapping noises started and I was just sitting there okay. And my mom was like, it's Thing. And we just got so excited that they put in just such small detail his little fingers walking around or the bee noises at the end. It really just made the show so much more and powerful, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to be giving it the bucket for sound. And then for visuals, I have a lot of thoughts about visuals, and they are almost entirely good. Tim Burton was the director, and he did incredibly. But along with him being the director and directing visuals, the costume designer, Colleen Atwood, she did very, very well in costuming. So she really kept the Wednesday vibe that you see in past Addams Family's shows and movies. Absolutely. But she sort of modernized the style, and you can see influences of today's alt or emo or that sort of fashion that comes into what she's wearing, along with her specific outfits, her dress that she wears in the dance scene was gorgeous, and it worked very well in terms of dancing and how Jenna Ortega threw her hands up a lot, and the dress itself, what had its fabric created a sort of weightless effect that was gorgeous in the dance scene, along with it being a black and gold dress as the rest of the school, and the theme of the dance is white and silver and blue. and it created a nice dichotomy between her, sort of separating her from everyone else in the dance, even including her own date, Tyler. And then the school uniform was incredibly done. They wanted to create a specific silhouette for Wednesday so that you could recognize her differently from all the other kids at the school, even though they're all wearing a uniform. So there's like the basic thing that you see, like first off, where it's like
worked,
black.
absolutely, yeah. Just the fact that one was black, one was blue, like you might just look at it like that. Oh, she's wearing black because she's Wednesday Addams.
But it's
they
also
did it
the
amazing.
silhouette is different. There are small details that are different. So the skirt is like, it's longer, it's fuller, it has a lot more layers, and it's short in the front, long in the back. It's long in the back. It has a different sort of jacket it's fitted, the cuffs are open, and just those small details create this specific silhouette for Wednesday that is just a small detail, but it really contributes to her as the main character sort of standing out in that whole theme of her being like the odd one out, even in the school for odd ones out. Also, I really enjoyed the minor details that went to other costuming in the show aside from Wednesday. Specifically, like Pugsley, he was dressed in a sweater that was stripes, but the stripes were sort of off kilter. They weren't perfectly straight, and it gave him that sort of distorted look.
Which is very Pugsley and is very Addams Family.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the Poe Cup, I loved how each of their costumes were based on Edgar Allan Poe characters.
I absolutely love that. They kept saying Poe Cup, and I didn't connect it at first, and then they said Edgar Allan Poe, one of our best alumni, or something like that, and I just got so excited that each of them had the storyline, and the costumes looked amazing.
And it was really interesting how Enid's team, the Black Cats, were based on a character from Edgar Allan Poe's short story, The Black Cats, and then how Bianca's team were the Gold Bugs, and then how Xavier's teams were based on characters from the Hop Frog short stories. And it was a very cool detail that they didn't have to go for, but it absolutely enriched the scene, and it really built in, and it gave a lot of like backstory for the school.
Yeah.
And it kept it from feeling 2D. And so it was very, very nice detail, and then the costumes looked great as well. And along with the costuming, which was incredible, the colors in terms of the lighting was awesome. We really liked...
Absolutely beautiful.
We loved how they used, they had these two specific tones, these two specific colors that they would use. They had this specific cool blue and this specific orange that they used throughout the show that symbolize the same things that the colors symbolize generally, like warmth and like cold, and just like you can see Wednesday's sort of arc displayed in how more of that orange lighting is being used around her as opposed to more blue in the beginning. And the set designs were gorgeous as well. I'm specifically thinking of the school dance. That was gorgeous.
It was absolutely beautiful. That was, you're being told that this is a white themed dance. Everyone's wearing white and you walk in, and obviously Wednesday's wearing black. But just the small details everywhere added to the fact that they carried them. I absolutely loved that mix, and I thought it was hilarious when Jenna Ortega was like, oh, it's not, they couldn't even have pig's blood. I thought it was a really fun way to tie in something that has been used several times. They have carried people in so many other shows, but I just loved the way that they did it in this, and it added so much just for the fact that they were all dressed in white, and the set design was beautiful for it.
And as well as the set designs and that sort of thing, the lengths that specifically Jenna Ortega went to make her character like feel more natural is, she said in interviews that she would walk like Wednesday does in her general life, so that her walk would look normal, look natural. She learned the basics of playing the cello. She learned the basics of fencing so that her cello scenes and her fencing scenes wouldn't seem weird or badly done. And it definitely paid off. Those scenes they're very good. And I say that as someone who doesn't know how to play the cello or fence, but even from this
we
outside
think they
perspective,
looked good. They looked pretty.
It looked good. So overall, we are definitely giving it the bucket for visuals.
Last but not least is originality. So this Wednesday, obviously, this is one of the first times that a Addams Family character has been taken out and given their whole own show. So it was definitely different from the source material, but in ways that I loved. It was a new iteration on Wednesday that really mixes with our generation well. This has been done with other Wednesdays in the past where they kind of all have their own generation, but I love the way we could go back to the love triangle thing. Like, why would Wednesday Addams have a love triangle? But it is something that is seen so frequently with our with shows in our generation, that it almost didn't feel off being there, but it did feel off being there. I absolutely love the way that at the end of the show, Xavier gives her a phone, and it just really meshed in how it is still Wednesday Addams from the original, who's different and obviously way weirder than anybody else there, but they're like slowly building her up to be a more generation set person in our society, and still she hates it the whole time. She's typing on a typewriter the whole time. I absolutely loved that. At first you didn't really notice it because you're just like, she's typing, she's writing her novel, who else is writing a novel? But just the simple way that she uses a typewriter, or she uses a record player instead of listening to music any other way, it just really added a lot to it and built up the character, so we definitely give it the bucket for originality.
Overall, Wednesday earned itself 4 out of 5 buckets, making it
Worth the watch.